like 6 pages.
Welcome, Fastpitch Huddle fans. Coach DP here alongside Coach Christie and Coach Nolte.
Hello, hello.
Good evening, everyone.
Getting back to you after a weekend of a wonderful big event that I know everybody was so excited about. I'm talking about the tournament at the Slugger Complex, not the Super Bowl. That wasn't much of an event, was it?
I don't know. I caught the tail end of the third quarter and some of the fourth quarter, so I guess maybe I didn't miss much.
Yeah, same here.
I watched Shark Tank.
Yeah, when we finally got home, like every Super Bowl, we're always at a softball tournament, and so when we finally got home, I think it was, I don't know, maybe 3-3 still, just after halftime. I guess I didn't miss much of a halftime show either. I will say this, though. I know there's a lot of haters out there of the New England Patriots and Tom Brady and how they go about doing things. But one thing I would say is that's a guy that truly does everything in his power to be the best that he can be every single day at his profession, at his skill. And that's what I admire about him so much. You know, I don't think it can really be matched that he's the GOAT of the NFL. And that's what we always try to teach our athletes, to be the GOAT of themselves every single day. You know, strive to be.
I watch Shark Tank.
Strive to be 1% better every single day at everything you do in life. And if you don't know, you should do some research about Tom Brady and the nutrition plan he goes through, the workouts he goes through, the video he watches, and everything he does to prepare himself for what he's going through year in and year out. And I mean, the guy's 41, 42 years old. And
hey, watch it with the age stuff.
What's that?
I said watch it with the age stuff.
I'm just saying he's that age, and he's still. I mean, he has no reason financially to play the game of football.
That's right. Yep.
And he still plays it just for the love of the game, and that's. I mean, I know I'm talking football here to start off with, but you know, whenever you find athletes playing the game of softball for the love of the game, that's when the game's at its purest form, and you know, just relating that to Tom Brady and how he goes about doing his business on and off the football field. So again, I'm not a New England Patriots fan, but I certainly admire how Tom Brady goes about his business, and you know, 6 Super Bowls, you can't really top that. So all right, let's get back to the topic at hand, which we're kind of following through with where we were at last week. This is the recruiting part 2. We talked quite a bit about the recruiting process last week, and we had some good questions. And again, like I say every night, this is not there's no one way about doing things. This is just the best processes and practices that we've had success with, and we would like to share that so that y'all can hear what we believe works. So
Yeah, as you jump on, make sure that you comment and let us know who's watching, where you're at, say hi, and let us know if you have any questions as we get rolling. So last week we talked about quite a few things, but I think tonight, if you guys want to just jump right in and talk a little bit about skills videos, we kind of left off on that topic and talking about how to write an email and all those kinds of things, but you know, I know people are curious about the recruiting services and things like that, and a skills video is just a little tool that you guys can use, you know, as you start the recruiting process and get your information out there to coaches, and those are things that you can do on your own. The skills videos can be very simple. We talked a little bit about last week, keeping them short and simple.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important that you know, keep them short, because coaches don't have a lot of time. They get a lot of information. I was reading a little bit up on it the last couple days, and you know, it's not uncommon for a coach to get, you know, hundreds of emails a day, up to 4,000 a week. You know, it gets crazy.
So we want to keep it short and sweet. So a couple things that you want to make sure that you keep, or that you include in those skills video. Obviously, we like to always have an intro, and whether or not you have a kid speaking in their intro or you just post all the information on there, you want to make sure they know, obviously, the recruiting class, where they're from, some contact information.
Sometimes I have kids include, if their GPA is really good, they include that in there right at the beginning.
Yeah, if they know their ACT score already, you know, that's or SAT, you know, that's a good thing for coaches to know as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes, depending on the position, you might want to include their height and weight, if it's something that's going to catch a coach's attention, and then anything else that might grab their attention quick.
It's important when they do this is to have a smile. And you might have to do a couple takes, but when they do it, you have to remind them to smile, because a lot of them will just read it real quick off the thing. Just have them take their time, do a couple takes, and just relax and smile while you're doing it. Because when you smile, when you do it, it makes it that much easier.
That's right.
Sounds good.
And they want to see a little bit of personality too.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, that's what yep.
So when coaches are recruiting a player, they're thinking about, is this somebody I want to be around for 4 years straight or 2 years straight or whatever that might be. So
I don't think that because you do a skills video when you're a freshman, you can't do one again the next year or twice a year.
Yeah, it's a
about
good idea.
improvement,
Keep
too.
it, keep them updated.
Number one, your skill set changes. A lot of development happens from, a freshman year to a junior year in high school. But number two, the athletes get more comfortable being on camera. They get more comfortable being videoed, and that certainly helps the process. So I think the skills video is huge as a person recruiting at the college level. Just 2-3 minute clip, not any longer than that, but it's definitely a valuable tool.
So the skills that you want to include in the video are gonna obviously depend on what position you are. If you're putting yourself out there as a hitter and a position player, then obviously you want to make sure that you get some swings. We like to try to put just a couple swings off the tee, maybe a few from the side view, a few from the front, maybe even slow it down in slow motion. Then you're going to want to get in the cage and show some from either front toss or live pitching, whatever you're comfortable with. But you want to make sure that you get an angle or view that's going to showcase your swing, but also maybe give the coaches an idea of where the ball's going, after you make contact with it. So you want to make sure you get some swings in there. Don't be afraid to show some mistakes too. Coaches want to be able to see that obviously you're not perfect. They don't want a clean cut clip that's edited and, cut out all the bad ones. They want to see that you're going to make mistakes. They can pick out those flaws, I'm sure, just watching a couple swings. So obviously some swings, and then depending on what position you're playing, if you are a pitcher, then you're going to want to show, a few of each pitch. I would probably show some from both views, so from behind the catcher, and some, if you're a right-handed pitcher, off of your right side, off your right hip, so you can see a little bit of movement when it goes to the catcher. And it might even be a good idea to show one or two pitches from the side, just so they can see your motion and your leg drive and all those things from the side view. So pitchers, that's pretty clean cut and simple. You're going to show a couple of each pitch from the both views. And then if you are a middle infielder, okay, you're going to want to show some defensive skills, your hands, your quick transitions, your footwork, some work at the bag. You might want to take some throwdowns from a catcher and make that tag, or even turn a double play, showing some of that footwork at the bag, I think is important, so they know that you understand the position, and that you've been taught the correct footwork and things like that. First base, kind of the same deal. You're going to obviously show some of your defensive skills, but your glove work and footwork at the bag. And I think it's the same kind of idea at third base over there as well, too. Catchers kind of have a little bit more work, because I would say most catchers also play other positions, so you may want to showcase more than one position. But when you're catching behind the plate, you're going to want to show your blocking skills. Okay, you're going to want to show some framing. Okay, let them see your movement, that you're able to sway and get your hips around the ball, shoulders, all those kinds of things. You're going to want to show them your transition, okay, and your throwdowns. And some catchers like to throw down standing up. Some like to stay on their knees. You may want to show both. But you want to make sure that you get all those things in the video. And then if you're outside doing the video, it wouldn't be bad to showcase you being aggressive and going after a pop fly behind the plate.
I'm going to pose you a question right now.
Sure.
Is it better to have them outside, or can you do this inside?
That's a good question. I would say that you can do either or. I mean, we have kids that do both, because obviously when you're in the middle of the winter, you can't get out on the field, and you still want to get some clips to some coaches and showcase some athletic ability. I think the biggest part, or the most important thing, is just showcasing that athletic ability. A coach can see that with a couple throws and a couple swings, and watch them field a few ground balls. Obviously, they're going to want to still come and watch them play a few games, where they're going to see more game-like situations and scenarios. But I think if you can get on a field, great. But if you can't,
You got to kind of think of it as a dating website scenario kind of deal.
It is kind
of where you go and you look at the video and you see if that's the person, the kind of person you want on your team.
The right one for you.
The right one for you.
I would say you improvise with what resources you have. If if you can be outside's the best. If you have an indoor facility, you make the most of that. If you just have a garage, you do what you can with what you have, and at least get something done. And then when you have more time, you got to make it a priority whenever you have time. If you have a tournament in a dome, you got time between games. That's a perfect time to be working on some of this stuff. So certainly, I would say. Make the most of the resources that you have access to.
Somebody's asking, Crush Tidal Waves is asking whether catchers should throwing from their feet or from their knees.
Both, absolutely.
Yeah, both. I think because obviously you're going to have to adjust to the pitch. So if the pitch goes up and the runner's going, you're already up, so you're going to stay up and throw it. If you can stay down, I think sometimes we can be quicker that way. But obviously it's a skill that you have to work on, and some catchers aren't as comfortable with it right away. There's good ways to work on that to get stronger and faster. But if you've never done it before, then you may be more comfortable standing up for a while to do it.
And that's okay to film that then. And then go back and redo your video.
Right.
You can always work on something. If you need to get a video out there, you can get it out there, and then always come back and redo it.
Yeah. Just this last week, I talked to a college coach in Florida who's watched one of our players' videos and really liked what he saw. But the video was taken about a year ago, and he knows that she's been working on some things. So already we're updating that video, sending him some new film. So he can see what she's been working on in the off season. She's gotten stronger. Her leg drive is better as a pitcher. Movement might be a little bit tighter and sharper, and then obviously if your speed's improved. So I'd say keep those updated as often as you can, and just keep them in front of the coaches. So what else, Coach Nolte? What else do you think we need to make sure we keep in these videos?
With outfielders. It's hard to do inside. You can do a little bit of work if you have a high enough ceiling. You can do some fly balls and show the footwork. I'm stuttering tonight. Some run throws, a curl hop. You can just do a couple things real quick.
Showing some footwork.
Yeah.
If you're speedy, you want to make sure that you include a home to first with maybe a stopwatch on you. If you have a real technical way to show that, that's even better. But just showing your athletic ability and the coaches getting in a chance to see that you have some speed. If you're a hitter from the left side, slapper, or an outfielder, then I think that's a plus too. Just anything that's going to showcase your strengths. They're going to see weaknesses as well, and that's okay. Not everybody has strengths and weaknesses, but however you're going to market yourself, though, that's what you want to focus on. Like Coach Nolte said earlier, if you've got a great GPA, include that. But if it's not so great, then leave it off. Things like that. So if you're going to school as a pitcher only, and maybe not going to hit in college, then you can leave that off too. Everybody's going to be different, so you're going to see lots of different types of videos.
And it might be a case that like you are a pitcher, but the coach might say, "Go ahead and send me a few clips of you hitting."
Right.
So then you can do a short one on that.
Yeah.
So anything goes, just about.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you have any questions about any skills videos, shoot us a message, and we'll try to get some of that out there for you. So let's talk about recruiting services. Coach DP, what's your take on that?
We touched a little bit on it last week. There's a lot of services out there. Again, like what I said last week, and I've actually talked to some people about it this weekend as well. If you've got the means and you want to invest extra money, any marketing that you can do for yourself is not going to be bad. As a person that really works both with recruits trying to get recruited and now recruits that we're trying to recruit to our college, what I would say is this: I've spent a lot of time on recruiting services the last couple of months, and it's never failed me that every time I find a kid that I've watched their video on there or learned some of their skills, I go to reach out to them. They're already committed, and it's not marked on that site. So they're not up to date all the time. I'm not speaking across the board, I'm just saying I've got less, trust in those services where I can't afford to waste my time looking at all that. So certainly, what I'd say to this is, if you have the means to get and everybody does, you all have cell phones, I know, so you have the means to get a quick clip done. So don't make any excuses about that. You put an email together, and if you have questions on what needs to go in that email, you just reach out to us and ask. We'll cover more of that. You can send that out to every school you're interested in, and not all of them are going to respond, but that's a good start, and you just need to be proactive, I think. So as far as the services go, I mean, certainly market yourself as much as you possibly can, but if they're extremely expensive services,
it's not a necessity. I mean, the biggest thing is making sure that you have somebody doing that work for you. If you don't have a coach, or we talked about an advocate talking to college coaches and getting your name out there for you, then you may need something like that, to help you with that. But you can certainly send emails. You can certainly make a skills video. If you need help trying to figure out exactly what that skills video should look like, go to YouTube, type in 2020, 2021 shortstop skills video, softball, and you'll see hundreds of them, and you can click through and get different ideas. They all are done differently. Just keep it short and simple, and it's all about getting your name out there and keeping it in front of those coaches. So let's talk a little bit about what's a good score. What's a good time. We talked about those evaluations, getting those evaluations done last week. How do we know what's a good overhand throw? What's a good speed for a pitcher to go Division I? What levels are we looking at? What types of abilities, I guess you would say.
Well, if you want to start with pitchers, then obviously that's more your area of expertise, but I would say velocity is something that every Division I coach is looking at. So if you're looking at the Division I level, they're going to be looking at velocity. They're going to be looking at the size. So another thing when you're marketing yourself as a pitcher, don't cheat yourself on your height, okay? Because trust me, and anymore, it seems like they're looking for 65 even.
But just because you don't throw 65 doesn't mean you can't play Division I. I've watched lots of Division I teams play in the last few years, and there's kids out there throwing 57, 58, but they've got good movement, and so they...
Good movement, good
spin.
Yeah.
And good size, athleticism, build where a coach knows that kid keeps working, they're going to, they're going to max out at a higher velocity.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Definitely focus on the movement. And one other thing about the movement, I think pitchers sometimes think they have to throw every pitch there is in the book. And you can certainly work on those, but if you can throw a good changeup and 2 or 3 other movement pitches that complement each other, then I think you'll be successful if you can make the ball move. Right. There's a difference between spin and movement. You got to have good spin to get good movement, but you can also have good spin and not throw hard enough to make that ball move. So there's a fine line there, so you want to make sure. Yep, location, got to have control. You can throw 68 miles an hour, but if you can't control it, then it's going to be less helpful.
Throw into weak contact. Making hitters miss. Doesn't have to be striking out hitters, but
yeah, you got to have roles as a pitcher. We've got some Cobras in the house. I want to give a shout out to some Cobras. Bree Paler, Summer Johnson. Thanks for joining us tonight. Summer, are you doing your squats? I had to throw that in there.
No, I think she's working on duck walks.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about catchers. While we're talking, we got 2 catchers here watching. All right, what are some things we're looking at? Let's talk about pop times. I know Coach DP over here, every time we play a game, in between innings, he always clocks our opponent's catchers on their throwdowns to see, can we steal on this catcher.
Always clocking the opponent's catcher every single half inning, as well as our own, just to make sure that we're doing all the little things, working hard between every half inning. When I see a pop time over a 2.0, I know our speedsters can steal. Okay, so if your pop time is not under 2.0, you definitely need to work on getting a quicker release, getting a stronger throwdown. This past weekend, we played against a few pretty strong catchers, and I had a couple of them that were 1.78, 1.82, that range. But we've seen some better ones, and it all depends on how you do it, what you're looking for the pop time. But I would say under 1.8. Is probably a really good pop time.
If you don't know how to catch a pop time, the way we do it, we like to just use a stopwatch, and we're going to start it from the time the ball touches the catcher's mitt till the time the ball gets the second baseman's mitt. So it's start to finish, boom, boom. It's quick.
If you're timing it on your own, you want to make sure that, not during a game or whatever, you want to make sure that the catcher isn't reaching, or the second baseman, isn't reaching too far out in front. To grab that ball that they're catching it at the base.
Yeah, if you're trying to do this for an evaluation, then a lot of times we'll put a screen right at the front corner of second base so that it's the same for everybody. Because if you have a catcher, just like Coach Nolte said, they may be reaching for one ball, or they may let one ball get a little deeper. So it's gonna vary your time. So if you want to be accurate and even for everybody, we just put a screen straight across the front corner of that bag and let the catchers throw right into that, and then you've got your timers behind it. And when we're doing evaluations, we like to have 3 timers, and we'll take the middle time, or if you get 2 times that are exactly the same, then we go with that. But it's basically like an average or what's something in the middle,
And I would say if a catcher has an overhand throw 63 or higher, that's sufficient. I would say quick release, but once the overhand throw is that strong. If the pitch is in the right location, a majority of the time throwing from the knees is actually going to get there quicker, even though sometimes the catchers don't feel that way. It just takes them too long to get up. And now there's times where there's a pitch out called where they can already be coming up on the throw as long as the pitcher can hit the right spot. But throwing down from the knees is also a very good way to disguise a throw behind the runner that's on second, getting a lead off, being able to throw behind, because you can do it effortlessly from the knees. So I think at the higher levels, learning how to do that well is very important.
But, while we're on overhand throws, what's a good overhand throw speed for a middle infielder for college? Division I. If we're looking at Division I.
You show 66 or higher. But I think kids can get by with less than that by any means. We've had some kids throw as hard as 70 miles an hour overhand, 71, but certainly you can get by with a low 60s overhand throw if you really attack the ball well and get rid of it quick. But one thing you just really got to work with your middle infielders on throwing through the first baseman, not throwing to the first baseman. If that ball dies off at the end, the speedsters are going to beat it out.
Right. And just quick transfer, quick release, quick hands. We always say when we're playing defense at practice, we'll say hot potato. We're working on hot potato now. So as soon as you touch that ball, get rid of it. You don't have time to bring it back.
And that can make a lot up for if you're not throwing the 65.
Right.
Right.
If you have a quick transfer, man.
We've got kids playing high level softball right now, Division I, and when they played for us, they probably were throwing 57, but their hands are so quick and they attack the ball and get rid of it quick that it makes up for it. You're right. It's all about the trade-offs. The other thing too, I think, is learning how to throw, and we've been working on this too, learning how to throw in uncomfortable positions so you can get rid of the ball off of any foot. Whether you're running across the field, you're running towards the catcher and you throw across your body, throwing from a low pocket, those really fast slappers you watch the College World Series, those shortstops are so quick, and the third baseman, they basically pick it up off the ground and throw it straight from there. They don't have time to come up and get rid of it. So we call that the low pocket throw. And I love watching shortstops throw from the low pocket. It's awesome. What about speed? Let's talk about speed. What's a good home to first? If you're a lefty from the left side, someone with speed, what are we looking for?
Hey, I don't know anything about that. I was slow. They called me Tank.
I know. I ran like a Flintstone, so I don't know anything about it either.
Hopefully our kids get my speed and not my wife's speed. Obviously 2-7 home to first is great. Now, it's one thing to run 2-7 home to first, and it's another thing to actually hit the ball and get out of the box.
Right.
I do the same thing when our slappers are up. I have my hand on a stopwatch every time because I want to time them. And we've got some fast kids on our team, but we didn't have a lot of them getting out of the box to first under 3 this weekend, and it's just something we got to work on getting out of the box quicker because we can go from home to first in 2-7.
So for a slapper, we're looking under 2-7?
Yeah, I mean 2-7 is a great number, and again, it all depends on
how you
what
time
are you doing.
it. Right.
Are you doing it from contact to first, or are you starting at a standstill? There's a lot of different ways that people will record that.
Right.
So,
I mean, coaches usually are contact to contact, right? Contact to the bag.
Right.
Some of them do it differently, but contact to contact. That means contact of the ball to your bat until you contact the bag with your foot. I think that's how a lot of coaches are doing it when they're watching games. Now, when you're doing evaluations, if you want to take out the righty-lefty scenario, we like to always do it from the front corner of the plate. But if you want to take that out of the equation, then you could start their feet at the back corner of the plate, and now it kind of evens it out a little bit.
Now, you coaches that wonder, okay, why are you always timing these kids? Well, I mean, instantly, we know exactly what our kids can steal first to second, how long it takes them. The fast ones to get a good jump and get into second base. So by the time you're getting the other catcher's pop times, and I always try to get it even on an actual steal, not just between innings, because some catchers they're just lazy between innings. They're not doing it full out. But that's a stat that can help you win a ball game down the road. Once this catcher's got a 1.9 pop time and the pitcher's only throwing 55 miles an hour. I mean, that makes a difference. When you got a speedster, we this weekend stole second, fake bunt, steal third, suicide squeeze, and we're home. There's a run, and it's just it's all part of the game that you have to be able to anticipate that as a coach and be thinking ahead and have all those numbers in your mind. And that's why it takes a coaching staff because not one person can do everything. So I know we're talking about recruiting, but just got off on a little tangent there. So
that's all right. That's how we learn sometimes.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about? I haven't seen a lot of information really printed on it about exit velo.
Exit velo. I mean, I think it's good to know. It's a good number to know, but I almost kind of think it's a little bit of a thing of the past. It gives you a good idea of.
I think it gives a comparison. I mean,
it does. You can compare kids, but it doesn't mean that kid's going to be a good hitter just because she's got a good exit velo. You know.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what exit velo is, it's basically the speed of the ball off the bat. Your exit velocity is what that stands for. It can tell you about their strength and the speed of their swing, but it's not going to tell you if they're a good hitter.
It is all things that if you start measuring that as an athlete and you measure it now and you measure it again in a month and again in another month, you can at least see are you improving or not? Are the things you're doing working?
That's a lot. I think what we do it and we look at it like I have numbers back to 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I love to compile those numbers and look at them and see kids that have went through the organization, and see how they improved.
Right.
Not only for recruiting, but it's good to use those baselines. That kind of thing.
You can see what's a good score, what's an average score, where do we compare.
All these stats or these numbers we're talking about, exit velo or home to first, overhand throw, velocity pitching. I mean, the reason all that stuff matters is because when you're talking about travel softball and you talk about a batting average or a win-loss record or an ERA, it's not relative. There's all different levels. So you really, coaches out there, they don't really ask, what's this athlete's batting average? Are they hitting 400 this year? I mean, we've played different level schedules different years, and a player on our team hitting 400 last summer versus 3 summers ago is completely different. So
they may ask where you've got your kid batting in the order just to kind of have an idea of what she does for you. But I'll tell you what, we had a 9-hitter this weekend who hit a ball out, and I think we could hit a ball out just about all the way through our lineup. So to me, it doesn't matter where you're batting the lineup if you're playing on a highly competitive team.
Nothing can take the wind out of the other team's sails as much as a 9-hitter hitting a bomb. So and it was in extra innings and an international tiebreaker too, of all things. So,
I knew she was going to do it. I just knew.
Called it.
But
There's a couple other scores, if you're doing an evaluation, and it's all about how you do it and however you do it, as long as you are consistent when you do it and you do it the same way for every kid that you test, then your numbers are going to mean something. But if you change it, or you go to one evaluation and they do it one way, and then you go to another one, they do it another way, you can't really compare those numbers because they're not the same. But one of the things we like to do is we call it a third base touch time, and we'll take all of our infielders and we put them at third base, and we mark off a little box where they've got they're going to get a ball rolled to them, or you can even set a ball straight on the ground, okay? And as long as it's on the same spot. Actually, that's probably the best way to do it, because then you're rolling, taking out the variable with the roll. But you're gonna mark a spot, okay, and mark a starting point for the player's feet, okay. And all they have to do is field the ball. As soon as they touch that ball at that marked position, you're gonna start your stopwatch, and you're gonna clock them from the time they touch that ball till the time the ball touches the net at first base. So you're gonna again put a screen across first base, that front corner. You can use a catcher if you have to, but your numbers aren't going to be as accurate. So we like to use a screen. And we do that with the stopwatch. And again, we like to use 3 timers just to get as accurate of a score as we can. So that's a touch time from third base. We also do a outfield touch time. I
like that one. I like that one a lot.
I think that's good for all athletes, just to show how quick they are. But it also shows accuracy too.
And I really love it to do it with the younger age groups, and then see those numbers improve over the year.
Because the first time they do it, they're rolling the ball up there from the pitcher's mound all the way to home plate.
It's always fun to see all the other coaches scatter, too.
Oh, yeah. Where's the ball going? But a center field touch time, it's the same idea. You can put the ball on a tee, okay, at a marked position. How many feet do we do it past second base? Usually about 15 feet.
I'd have to look up. I think it's 120 feet from home.
20 feet. 120 feet from home. Okay.
Second base is 84 feet, so you'd be going back behind that.
About 40 feet.
Yeah. I always measure it off from home plate. So.
Okay.
We do it consistent every year. We have it tracked though, so that we know year after year the data compared to previous years, previous players. So.
Right. So you're gonna put a tee out and set the ball on the tee, and the outfielder is going to grab the ball off the tee, and they can do it on the move, or they can grab it then move. If you're doing it on the move, you're going to be quicker than if you do it, after you pick up the ball and move. But it's a touch time again. So from the time that your hand touches the ball till the ball touches the screen at home plate, and that's our center field touch time. And we like to use that just to showcase some outfield times and how quick can we get rid of the ball, how accurate are we. How hard is our throw? Those kinds of things. So those are some of the times and scores and skills that we kind of look for when we're looking at an evaluation or even a tryout. But again, that doesn't show everything. It's not going to tell you how hard a kid's work ethic is. It's not going to tell you what their attitude's like. You can see personally when you're watching a kid if they hustle. The 3 things that we always tell our kids that we don't want them to ever get beat at is hustle, effort, and attitude. And if I'm looking for a kid to play for me in college, that's what I want, is hustle, effort, attitude, and obviously a little bit of skill. But those things I think are the must-haves.
But I think those numbers also kind of give people a tool to go by to kind of know what kind of level they're going to face.
Right.
And I think that's very important, to be very truthful.
Where do you
with
fit?
with yourself to know where you fit in.
Right. But don't stop working.
Yeah, well, that's right. You can, if you're right on the edge there, work harder.
Yep, that's right. We've had kids who have improved their overhand throw, 5 to 6 miles an hour per year. It just depends on how hard you want to work and where you're starting from. How strong are you going to get? What are you going to do during the off season? You're going to get in the weight room. You got to just work on it. So.
Fire away any questions you got in regards to any of the testing we do or times. If you have any questions on that.
Hi, Mom.
So now let's talk a little bit about visits.
Yeah.
Can we talk about profile sheets first?
Yeah.
I'm going to get on a rant here in just a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay. I think it's very important that profile sheets include a couple things. And this comes from going out and watching other teams, and you might see a couple players that you might like, you're there to look at one kid, and somebody might catch your eye. So you either look for a profile sheet, and there is none, or they're in separate little by each player, and that's sometimes hard to do. There's sometimes some information missing on there, or I go to the website, and either the website's not updated, there's missing information on there. I can't find anything out about the players. And let me tell you, I am good at hunting and tracking down people on the internet.
Yeah.
And, that is, so please, teams, keep that stuff updated. It's very, very important.
Yeah.
And Danny mentioned earlier about the recruiting services and their website information. I think part of that goes back to the players too, on communicating.
Once they get committed, they don't communicate it to the service.
Yeah,
or there's just a lack of communication back and forth there. And like you were talking, I mean, just last weekend, I spent the whole weekend recruiting, and some teams that I hadn't seen because I'm there all day, I see them play. So the first thing I do, because at these indoor tournaments, there's not a lot of recruiting profile sheets out, so I'm going online and looking at the website, and there was no website for like 3 of the 4 teams. So it's just stuff that you might want to think about talking to somebody on your team, if you're at that age where you are wanting to be recruited.
Right.
And all you have to do is put a picture. It's nice to have a picture of the kid, and their name, their number, their recruiting year, the grad year, position, and whether they're committed or not.
And I mean, as a recruiting coach, it would be nice if there's an email address as well,
some kind of contact information.
Athlete,
You can go through the coaches, but if you're a college coach and they're a year that you can talk to them, you want to be able to just reach right out to them.
As a JUCO coach, we can talk and communicate with players at any age, really. And so the process we go is, if we're going to reach out to the player, we're going to reach out to their coach as well,
right,
to keep them in the loop. But sometimes if we can't reach out to the player direct, we don't know 100% if that information's getting passed along,
right,
or how timely.
You mentioned you see different types of profile sheets at tournaments, and they hang them up behind the home plate, which is great. But one thing, if I'm thinking more on the team aspect of things, I'd really love to see those profile sheets have everybody on the team's profile on it, and not a big old hanger with every individual's profile sheets. If you really want to work the most for your whole entire team, you want that coach. Number one, it's a lot easier for a coach to walk up and grab one sheet and walk away, and now they have every bit of information about every player on there that they want. But if they have to go up and search for, okay, where's number 22, now they're not going to see anybody else, their profile sheet. Or if they see someone else they like, and they have to come back and pull it out. So if you put it all together on one sheet, you don't have to have a full sheet for each kid. I think it's nice for those coaches. It's easier for them to keep track of. Plus, when they're looking at one kid, they may see somebody else they like. They may look at this and say, "Ooh, I like this number. This kid throws 68 miles an hour overhand, and she runs a 2.7 home to first. I think I need to watch this kid." That's how you get kids recruited. They may be there to watch one kid, but they might see somebody else, and you're helping your entire team of it. When you send a college coach an email, attach your profile sheet.
Yep.
It's
That's
just
a good
something
idea.
easy.
And on those team profile sheets, I think it's name, hometown, high school, parents' names, birth date. Let's see, what am I forgetting? Your cell phone, email, the contact information.
Any scores or times you might have.
Yep, that's
just to give them a general idea.
And your GPA, class rank.
Yep.
Score if you've got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brian Thomas, a good exit hitting velocity.
If you're looking to play Division I, I'd say 70 plus.
Yeah,
that's
70,
that's
75.
That's what.
But a good one at high level travel softball is 65 or above. But if you're if you can get over 70 to 75, that's certainly.
Hey, I did take mine the other day.
Oh.
It was 50. That's JV.
JV.
Yeah.
Ross had a question also about college camps good for exposure. I mean, absolutely. But you only have so much time, so many resources, so you kind of gotta pick and choose which camps you're going to. But yeah, I mean, if you want to, if if a student athlete wants to play at that college, or they know they want to go to 1 or 2 or 3 different colleges, go to those camps.
Yep.
And don't just go once, go often.
Well, college coaches are recruiting a lot of kids, but they want kids that want to come to their school too. So they don't want to be chasing kids around all summer long that have no interest in their school. So it's a good way to show them that you have interest in that school by going to their camp. Plus, while you're on campus, they can talk to you. You know, if they can get to know your personality. If it's before your September 1st of your junior year, when they can't talk to you outside of that camp, it gives them an opportunity to get to know you a little bit, you know, where they can't talk to you on the phone if you're not on campus and, you know, things like that. So I think there's a lot of good things about going to a college camp. You just want to make sure that you're going to the right ones.
At college, that coach, that program, the organization, that town. So they need to be looking at things like that to see if they're a good fit there. Just as much as the coach is looking to see if the coach thinks they're a good fit. So,
What about a college visit? You know, how do we get that going?
It's different at all different levels. So, I mean, I guess what I should say, the Division I level has limitations. After that, there's really not a lot of limitations on number of college visits. There's still limitations on whether it's if there's anything that can be paid for, that type of stuff. But at the Division I level, student athletes allowed only 5 official college visits, and only 1 per school.
What's the difference, Coach, between official and unofficial for those who maybe don't know?
Well, I'd say the main difference is on an official visit. Typically, the college coach is covering some of the expenses, whether it's covering for you and your parents to stay overnight, or meals. If they're covering any expenses at all, it's definitely an official visit. You know, maybe they're giving you tickets to go to a football game. I think they're allowed maybe 3 tickets to a football game or a basketball event if you're on campus when one of those is going on. So an unofficial visit, it depends on the different levels. And by the way, Division II, Division III, junior college, to the best of my knowledge, it's still unlimited visits. There is no limitation on how many visits you can go on at those levels, and so you know, certainly go on as many of those as you want, and get to, you know, see the campus, learn about the program, learn about the coach, learn about the team. On those visits, if at all possible, you want to sit and talk to players that are playing there currently. That's a big thing that will really help you get an understanding of what it's like.
And ask questions. Ask lots of questions. Come with some questions prepared to ask the coach, but also to ask those players if you get an opportunity to talk to them. You know, ask them, is this really how coach is, or is she a different way in practice versus games? How does she handle a loss? You know, how does she coach you guys in practice? What's your interaction like off the field? You know, all the coach a game at that school, so you know exactly what you're getting. Because we all know that you got camp coach and you've got real coach, and those sometimes can be 2 different things. So you want to make sure that you know what you're getting. But ask lots of questions. That's really important.
But sometimes we have some of our athletes that are like asking for an official visit at a school, and the coach at that school isn't real big on doing official visits sometimes, and so it's kind of hard for the student athlete to understand, why won't this coach give me an official visit if she's interested in me or he's interested in me? And you got to understand, sometimes those coaches want that official visit to be at a later on point down the road a little further. So if you're interested and you get an unofficial visit, that's good as well. So how do you get that a visit? I mean, it goes multiple ways, but certainly don't be afraid to ask for it if that's really what you want. Now, depending on where you're at in the process, and you know,
your
obviously
graduation
it's got to be after September 1st of your junior year now. So you're not going to get an official visit or an unofficial visit from a coach prior to that. Now, that doesn't mean you can't go on campus on an academic visit prior to that at the Division I level. Now, at other division levels, junior college level, it can be at different times. You don't have to wait till that time frame. So,
Sean Smith, that's definitely important to make sure that you know what majors are available to you whenever you go to that school, and most of the players and coaches can let you know what players have done in the past, and if you are able to continue a certain major at that school while you play softball or not. So that's important to know and ask. What's the difference between an academic and athletic visit? Able to talk to the softball coach or sit down with them prior to September 1st of your junior year. So
one question that I know we have is should parents be going on a visit with the student athletes? And that's 100% absolutely yes. I feel like, number one, I mean, the parents want to feel comfortable with the situation, but also as a coach, you're kind of recruiting the family. You're recruiting the student athlete, but you also want to see how the student athlete interacts with their parents, and you just want to see how that the whole atmosphere works out. So absolutely, I mean, one of the things that you might hear your travel ball coach might have told you to your organization that sometimes parents, you got to be on your best behavior. Coaches are watching you as well, and what I would say is that's 100% accurate, because I've spent a lot of time during our games talking to coaches, and let's just say they're definitely paying attention to whose parents are doing what in the stands, and that's just a good way for them to get to see what type of athlete they're looking at. So it's certainly something to be aware of, and it's good and bad. So I mean, from the good standpoint, whenever you have a parent that's a team parent that's all in and supportive for all the athletes, the coaches notice that too. So
they definitely they don't want to have problems, when that kid gets there. They don't want to have someone who's stirring things up in the stands and going to be questioning everything they do. They need that kid to buy into their system if they want things to go the way they have it planned. So it's definitely important to just be supportive, let your kid make the best decision for her, but be supportive of that coach so that kid understands they're going to have to compete when they get there. They're going to have to work for it, and just because they're not getting what they want right out the gate doesn't mean that you're going to, trash talk that coach or things like that. So, that's a difficult part for some people to understand, but it's very important. And coaches can see some of that stuff when they're watching games and things like that. So they're going to be looking for that when they sit down to visit. But when you sit down to visit players, this is the hardest part, I think, when you're talking to a college coach, is making sure that you can do a few of these things. And I think the number one thing is eye contact. If you can't look a coach in the eye and have a conversation with them, that's big. They want kids that are responsible, that can be leaders, that aren't afraid of failure, that aren't afraid to speak up. And those are some of the ways that they're going to find that out, is by sitting down. It's basically like an interview. We've been on a couple visits with some players, and they ask lots of questions, and they're going to ask you questions that are going to kind of put you on the spot, and they want to see how you handle it. And some kids are going to clam up, face is going to get red, hands sweaty. They're going to look down, or they might look at mom and dad. Help me out here, mom and dad. Mom and dad might want to answer these questions, but let your kids answer the questions, because that's how those coaches are going to get to know them. But I think those are skills that are important to practice too. Before you go on a college visit or make a phone call to a coach, you got to practice being able to talk to adults like that, and that's certainly something that you can improve upon before you have to utilize those skills. So it's something we practice definitely in our organization. We've given kids all kinds of fun assignments. I can remember one. We had a team that we basically just gave them, here's a stranger's phone number. Now I want you to call them.
Explain stranger.
When I say stranger, it was someone we knew, okay, like a business owner in town or something like that, someone respectable in our community. But we
which is just somebody out of the phone book.
But we they did not know who they were calling. They were only given a phone number, okay,
and a name,
and a name, and they had to call this person and give them their spiel about our summer softball team and talk about where we're going, what are we doing, what are our goals, and those figures in the community knew ahead of time not to let that player off the hook easily. So they were going to ask him lots of questions, try to keep him on the phone as long as they could. And some of those players really struggled with it at first. And we all kind of sat around together as they did this and watched. And some of them really got nervous. Their feet are bouncing. Their hands are shaking. They're bouncing up and down, looking around. They're sweating. And then you can tell the ones who really have practiced or have had experience in these situations, and they were calm and cool and collected, but it was good practice for them. And I guarantee you, if they did that again, a year after that, they're going to be more prepared for it.
Yeah, the more you do it, the more prepared.
Right.
And it gives you confidence because you know what's going to happen.
Right. Just being able to answer questions honestly, but eye contact's important. Asking questions, thank your manners, saying thank you, opening the door for people. All those little things are going to go a long way. If you're at a camp, help them pick up equipment or offer to. Those kinds of things I think are big, and those are things that can be taught at home before they start this process. But coaches, you guys can help teach them these things too. So it's all important. But all right. Sweet hat, Shelly.
Oh, thanks. Softball blinged up today.
Softball blinged up.
There's a few definitions that I think maybe that we could go over so people understand some of those terms. I know we hit a few of them tonight, and let's just hit a few of those. Contact period. What's a contact period? People hear that term,
right?
Well,
there's obviously with the NCAA, there's certain times of the year, and they have a recruiting calendar. Okay, there's certain times of the year when coaches can call, text, or message, athletes, and then there's times of the year where they can't have contact with those athletes, whether they've committed, whether they're just talking, they're interested, whatever it is. They have contact periods, and then they have a different period that's called a
dead period.
Dead period, okay? And the dead period obviously is when they are not allowed to have that contact with the recruits or their families. They can still keep in touch, through email and social media, things like that, but they're not going to be able to speak on the phone with you. And those recruiting calendars change, every year. They're just a little bit different based on the year and the calendar and the dates. So,
yeah. Okay. To go along with that, there's also a quiet period, and that's a time when coaches may not have face-to-face contact with recruits. So, that's another one of those words that pop in and out. So,
we talked a little bit about unofficial visit versus official visit. But there's also, a verbal commitment. We know what a verbal commitment is. That's when you verbally say, I plan to attend your college, but there's nothing in writing. Mm-hmm. So at that time, you don't want to see it, but kids can still change their mind. They're not locked into any situation. And really with the way things are now, they're never really locked in. But then you've also got your LOI, okay, or your national letter of intent, okay, and that's the paper that those kids are going to sign that basically says it's a contract with the student athlete and the coach indicating their commitment to participating in that sport at that school. Okay.
There's also some websites that you go to register. You have your NCAA eligibility center. It's easy for me to say, and that's where students that play NCAA Division I or II school make sure that you meet academic requirements before you can actually play and go on and accept that stuff. Which also is the FAFSA, your free application for federal student aid, and they do those to base on how much academic money you can also get besides athletic. So
those are important. You want to make sure that you fill those out, to try to get as much aid as you can. But also when you get closer to your senior year, talk to your counselors at your school. There are so many scholarships and grants and things out there for students that don't even realize what's out there in their own communities. And sometimes you'd be surprised at how many kids don't fill those out. there may be 2 or 3 kids that fill out an application for a scholarship, and they're going to give out 6 scholarships. So as long as you fill it out, you might get one. It just depends. They're all different, but take the time to fill those out, talk to your counselors, see what you're eligible for, and that extra money can always help. So put it towards, your lodging or your housing, your books, whatever it is that you need.
Here's a question. Greg Mao has a question. How does a kid that may not be outgoing, but is a really good player, get a shot?
I mean, if you're athletic, those things are going to show on the field. You can be a leader in many ways. You don't have to be a vocal leader. You can be a leader by example. Mm-hmm. So those things are going to show through. Obviously, your hustle, your effort, your attitude. You don't have to be loud to do all those things right. And when it comes to communicating with coaches, like I said, those are things that you can practice now. Start practicing now. And if it's hard for you, you've got to push yourself sometimes outside your comfort zone a little bit.
You need to, if you're not very outgoing, and I wasn't real outgoing as a student.
No.
You have to practice it.
Yep.
You have to become that way.
We always say fake it till you make it. I was not loud when I was younger. When I was a player, I wasn't loud. I was quiet. I was mouthy.
She wasn't.
But now I'm loud because I feel like if I'm going to be a leader for these girls, I have to be confident in what I'm doing, or they're not going to be confident in what I'm doing. So, and if you're not confident, then you got to fake it till you make it. Nobody else knows. Only you know.
Yeah.
So.
And the thing is, to play this game at a high level, you're going to have to eventually be able to verbally communicate well on the field. So especially depending on what position, there's a lot of young athletes that are catchers or shortstops that aren't vocal, and as they work themselves up the ranks, they have to figure that out. They have to get outside their comfort zone, figure it out. And even just on the marketing side of things, just because the athlete's not outgoing doesn't mean they still can't be very proactive and going after what they want. So certainly not everybody is outgoing, and there's a lot of athletes that aren't, but trying to find ways to get outside that comfort zone, and it takes a lot to build that confidence, but just working on that really hard, I think, would be important. So
okay,
any other questions? Fire some in before we'll get off here in just a couple minutes.
Next week we'll probably spend one more evening on recruiting, touch on a few other little things that maybe we've missed. We'll talk a little bit about the portal and what's going on in NCAA softball. Talk about USA softball and some of those kinds of things. Talk a little about social media and how that affects your recruiting. Grades, things like that. So if there's something that you want to hear about when it comes to recruiting or a topic that you have interest in, make sure you shoot that information to us, and we'll make sure we talk about it on air next week. So shoot us any questions that you have. If there's ever anything too that we can help a kid with as far as recruiting, that's what we want to do. Just because we don't play in our organization.
I think sometimes players and parents don't realize what a source opposing coaches can be.
Yeah. Oh, we have kids playing in college, because some of them because of who they've played against, and we say the same thing about kids. If they're a good kid, then we're gonna want to help them out. That kid was really hard to get out for us. If a college coach asks us about a kid that we know, we're gonna be honest, and we want kids to have those opportunities. And it doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, who you play for. We're going to try to help you out. So, yeah, if you're good,
I saw JJ made a post this afternoon, I think it might have been, about how the softball community anymore is becoming much more friendly, I guess maybe is a way you could put it, and that they're helping each other out a lot more.
I'd like to see it continue to improve in that ranks. I mean, I certainly feel like that's how we approach things. I mean, of course, when we're on the field, we absolutely want to do everything we can to win. But at the same time, we're always watching the other teams. We're watching the other coaches. I mean, if I see a coach that does some things in an outstanding way, I go up and let them know, hey, I really, thought a lot of how you handled that situation, and the same with some of the players we play against. So, and we're communicating with coaches on a regular basis, and they're asking what's out there. So, absolutely, it's all for the sport, and giving back and trying to make things as good as they can possibly be. So,
Sean, thank you for that. We'll definitely make sure we touch on that next week. He's asking to hear about the do's and don'ts in recruiting. Saying some coaches don't want to approach players committed to their team, and the unspoken rules on some of those topics. So we can definitely touch on that next week when we have a little bit more time, and we'll get into that. If we don't have any other questions, then I think we're gonna go ahead and close it up for the night. Again, even if you're watching this later on in the week and you have some ideas or something maybe that you want to hear about, send us a message, post a comment, and we'll make sure that we touch on that next week. All right.
Thanks for joining. Remember, strive
Thank
to be
you.
1% better every single day in the game of softball and the game of life. And remember, always respect the game. Thank you.
Have a great week.
Hey, good night, everybody.